This is my sim rig, and on it is currently a Logitech G29 setup with the shifter and the pedals down there. Probably going to be changing soon because I've got some new stuff, that being the MOZA R5 racing simulator, complete with the clutch pedal and a fancy racing spring force pedal. This is a bit of a first impressions video as I've only used it a few times, so I can't really justify this as a full review, but I'm going to go over everything that I know about it. If you want the spec sheets, then check out the link in the description below. I'll link to MOZA. They did send me this unit, but this is not paid for in any way. I'm not sponsored by them. I have no skin in the game. I just have a wheel and I want to take a look at it. So that's what we're going to do. So previously I took a look at the Camus wheel. I think it's also a 5 something. I'll put that in editing, but it is similar to this one in the sense that it's more of a budget-oriented direct drive racing wheel. In this case, I have, like I said before, I have the clutch, but this one does not come with the clutch, neither does the Camus one. You just get a brake and obviously a throttle as well. Same type of setup. But the Camus wheel has the motor, which is this, in the actual wheel, whereas this one has more of a fancy sim racing style motor in a separate housing. What that allows for is some interesting stuff, including the ability to remove this. All you have to do is pull this collar back, and with a bit of a click, it's hard to do with one hand. Whoa, that was violent. Okay, it's actually fairly easy to do most of the time. I think I just had it clipped in a little bit aggressively, but it's never been that difficult. But basically, it is a clip-on wheel, so you can actually change this wheel for other wheels and keep your base already set up, which is really cool. Now, the advantages to this are that you have a lot more customizability, in the sense that, like I said, you can change your wheel for something different. If you don't like the standard wheel that comes with it, you can put on more of an F1 or like race car spec wheel. This is, I guess, a little bit more pedestrian, although, yeah, it's still racing enough, at least for my purposes. This is really cool. I like having the clip-on stuff, but it's unnecessary for most, unless you really want that hardcore experience. Boom, just like that, and the pedal, or the wheel, is back live. So in terms of controls, you got pretty much everything that you can expect. Paddle shifters on the back have a really good click to them, like that. And as with most of this stuff, it is customizable. You can change and remap every single one of these buttons. I especially like the start button, although it doesn't feel very good. This button and this button here feel pretty cheap, especially the start button, but everything else feels decent. All of these buttons are actually doing things on the screen. Whoops. It does come with a BeamNG map. You just have to download their software and then it'll get itself updated and you're good. So something to keep in mind. By map, I mean like a layout of the controls for the game, not like a map in the game, just to clarify. So transitioning to how does this feel? Well, it greatly depends on the way that you set it up. This wheel is definitely not for people who are just getting into things, because there's so many settings to go through. You will have to do research, as I have, to try and figure out what works best for you. Now, I haven't had this wheel for very long, in the sense that I haven't actually played with it that many times, and the only game I played with it so far is BeamNG, so your mileage may vary. Basically, you can do a lot of stuff with this, and there are a ton of settings, which is great for when you get in depth into things, but it's a little bit intimidating for a beginner. If you're a very, very new person to sim racing, I would definitely suggest something more like this, much more plug and play. But if you want to get deeper, that's where this sort of thing comes in, and the Camus wheel as well. So I do plan on doing a full overview of this wheel versus some of the other wheels I have, i.e. this one, the Camus C5, I think, and then also the Logitech G29, just because I think it'd be interesting to compare all three of those together. That's not what this video is. For now, let's get into the actual driving experience of the MOZA. All right, so we have the wheel here all nice and set up. Again, in BeamNG, I'm just driving an off-road spec truck, just something simple in the Johnson Valley map because it's easy enough. The reason I'm recording this with the GoPro audio and not with my microphone is because the microphone and this on the same table, like you can see it's right here, just does not work together very well. Basically, if I want to record with this, I have to put the mic on a stand and then set it up differently. It's just easier this way. This thing makes a ton of vibration. It gives a ton of feedback, which is a good thing. So yeah, let's get into this actual like driving experience, at least in BeamNG. That's the game I'll cover today. So the first thing I find with this wheel is that when clamped to a desk, it does stick out quite a bit more than its counterparts, and that's just because it has a bit of a shaft here that obviously that's where the clip-on wheel is coming from. So you have to kind of lean back into it. You got to be in a bit more of a relaxed driving position to really get this right, which is fine. It works perfectly if you're actually thinking about like race cars. You're not hunched up like this driving. You want to be kind of laid back, like in a comfortable position. As I'm going around here, I'm just gonna off-road a little bit, I don't know, just have some fun. But let's talk about the pedals. So pedals are very important, and the reason I say that is because the pedals that come with the Logitech are not very good and kind of frustrating at times. They can be annoying, especially the brake pedal on that setup is very hard to press. But in this case, the pedals are very simple. There's not really anything to it. It's just a spring, and obviously there's adjustability as well, but it's a good thing. They're easy to use, easy to adjust, and they do have customizability in the form of different springs and stuff that you can use if you want it to be more firm or more soft or whatever. The software also does allow a lot of adjustment with the pedals, so you can have it engage sooner with your clutch if you don't want to do a full depress to get your engagement, which is not realistic anyways. Like a clutch would usually engage at some point in the travel, not all the way down. But yeah, just like stuff like that you can set up, which is really cool. Overall, pedals feel good. No complaints at all with the pedal setup in this wheel. For the sake of the review, I'm not using the clutch pedal, and I'm driving a car that is automatic as well, so there's no massive clicks. But the paddles themselves feel good to use. They make a very satisfying click, and yeah, they work good. I just realized I'm driving in two-wheel drive, and that's probably why I'm struggling a little bit in the sand here. Yeah, this new BeamNG change is something I'm not super used to. Let's go 4. There we go. So one of the main things about wheels that I like to think about is the way that they feel to hold, the way that they feel to use, and obviously your settings are going to change that drastically, especially how heavy you set the road feedback, how heavy you set the force feedback, how heavy you set everything is going to affect how you feel. But in general, just with light force feedback on, light road feel, this wheel feels good. Like it has, oh, I have no issues with it in terms of the way that it handles. It's fairly light, which is a good thing, but you can also set it to be heavier. So in a lot of ways, like it's kind of hard to talk about unless you're going from extreme to extreme. Like what's the heaviest it feels, what's the lightest it feels. But from my own testing and just messing with the wheel a little bit here and there, maybe crashing into a couple tenths every once in a while, the wheel feels good in all of its settings. Even if you want to play with like pretending that you're using manual steering or something, and you turn up the force feedback and the resistances as high as they can go and you're cranking it, it still feels good. One of the highlights of this setup for me so far has actually been the software, which is usually not something you'd think about with these wheels, but software is important because that's what lets you do all of these adjustments and all these changes. And this setup will allow you to update your stuff fairly easily with the MOZA racing app. Like when I first plugged the wheel in and I was trying to set up a profile for BeamNG, it had a couple updates for the wheels, for the wheel and the pedals, and it went super easy, so it was nice. Oh yeah, you might know MOZA from Jimmy Broadbent. They sponsor his racing team, at least last I knew about it, and they also sponsor his channel. So this is not just like a company that's coming out of nowhere. This is a fairly large, if not one of the larger sim racing companies. And this is not, like this wheel is not the most basic wheel that they have, but it is one of the more basic ones. And yet it still has pretty much everything that the average person would need. Unless you're going crazy and you've got a full cockpit, this is more than enough for you, I would say. Boys, it is ridiculously hot today. If I look shiny, it's because my house doesn't have AC yet. That's coming soon. The way that I like to set up wheels is not like so that they're super realistic. I know some people are very, very set on hyper-realism when it comes to this sort of setup. But for me, I don't really want to fight the car the whole time. I just want to be able to tell when something's broken with the feedback. So I think I have the force feedback set at like 20% or something like that. and then return speed is like 30%. And then force feedback, or sorry, road feel is only like 40%, something like that. Like that's basically how it feels when you're going over bumps and such. So my overall sort of thoughts on this wheel condensed down into, or wheel and pedal setup, I should say, because this is a bundle, although you can buy things separately. I am crashing into stuff all of a sudden. My overall thoughts basically boil down to, this is for somebody who's trying to get more advanced in sim racing. They're trying to move up a little bit from their Logitech or from the more basic wheel setup, and they want to get something that is not ridiculously expensive, but has pretty much every feature they're going to need, and then they're also not in some like hardcore sim racing, iRacing league that they demand a $10,000 rig. That's where I would put this setup. And the cool part about it is that you can buy this bundle and then still upgrade it if you want to. Like you can get the clutch, which I have, and then add your own shifter that they have, which I'm hoping that they send me. MOZA, please send me the shifter. I'd really love that, to have it for my sim racing setup. But you can also swap out the wheel, like I said. It's the base and the motor that matter. And then the customizability is insane, so you should be able to get the settings that you want out of this. I really don't see any downsides, really, other than complexity. But if you're buying something like this, you should probably do some research and know what you're getting into. But with that, I leave you with my review of the MOZA R5 Racing Simulator bundle, and also just the setup. This is more of a first impressions type of thing, but it has been fun to just record and have some fun here, driving around in the dirt. I'm interested to try this out in some more games, and I will definitely be doing Assetto Corsa, and I have a few other games that are on the presets list, like SnowRunner and stuff, so I want to try that out. SnowRunner with a wheel like this would be a lot of fun, especially if you set it up to feel really heavy like a truck. It just sounds super cool to me, so I want to do that. And I'm thinking this will probably replace the Logitech wheel on my sim rig, and then I think I'm just going to put the Logitech wheel in the box, because I've got Camus for right here, MOZA for the rig, and like that's all you need. I have too many wheels. But yeah, if you're a company that makes racing wheels and you want to send more for me to review, absolutely send me an email, I'll check it out. And if you're interested in more stuff from me or this channel, then check out the rest of the links in the description and the videos that I have posted. I've done a bunch of these wheel reviews and I intend to do more. But more sim racing stuff to come. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you guys again soon. Soonish, hopefully. Hopefully. I really need to stream some showcase stuff, and I have a million backlog videos to do, so we'll get there. We'll get there together. See you soon.